I ran immediately to Dean. He had a little house now. I knocked on his door at 2 o'clock in the morning. He came to the door stark naked. "Sal," he said with genuine awe, "I didn't think you'd actually do it. You've finally come to me." "Yep," I said. "How are things?" "Not so good, not so good." My arrival was somewhat like the coming of the evil angel in the home of the Snow-White Fleece. Dean and I began talking excitedly in the kitchen, which brought forth sobs from upstairs. "What's the matter with her?" I whispered. He said, "She's getting worse and worse, man. She cries and makes tantrums, won't let me out to see Slim Gaylord, gets mad every time I'm late, and when I stay home she won't talk to me." He ran upstairs to soothe her. I heard Camille yell, "You're a liar! You're a liar! You're a liar!" Their second baby was coming. It was horrible to hear Camille sobbing so. I had no idea what was really wrong, except perhaps Dean had driven her mad after all. After my last leaving of Frisco, he had gone crazy over Mary Lou again and spent months haunting her apartment on Divisadero. He loved her. He sweated over her. Finally, he got hold of some bad green, uncured marijuana, quite by mistake, and smoked too much of it. The first day, he said, I lay rigid as a board in bed and couldn't move or say a word. I just looked straight up with my eyes open wide. I saw all kinds of wonderful technicolor visions and felt wonderful. The second day, everything came to me. Everything I'd ever done or known or read or heard or conjectured came back to me and rearranged itself in my mind in a brand new logical way. And I kept saying, yes, 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 yes. These visions lasted until the third day. I had understood everything by then. My whole life was decided. I knew I loved Mary Lou. I knew you were my buddy. I knew how great Carlos is. I knew 1,000 things about everybody everywhere. Sal, I ran to Mary Lou with some of that tea. And do you know that the same thing happened to that dumb little box? The same visions, the same logic, the same final decisions about everything. Then what happened? She married a used car dealer. Dumb bastard has promised to kill me if he finds me. Bad hand and all. He showed me his hand. In the excitement, I hadn't noticed that he had had an accident. I hit Mary Lou on the brow on February 26th at 6 o'clock in the evening, and now listen to this. She didn't even have a bruise, but my thumb broke, and the horrible doctor made a setting of the bones, and the cast had a traction pin stuck through the tip of my thumb. And in April, when they took off the cast, the pin infected my bone, and I developed osteomyelitis, which has become chronic. And after an operation which failed, and another month in a cast, the result was the amputation of a wee bare piece of the tip-ass end. He unwrapped the bandages and showed me. The flesh, about ½ an inch, was missing under the nail. So now I take care of the baby while Camille works, you see? In the morning, there was a terrible scene. They were yelling at each other. A few moments later, Camille was throwing Dean's things on the living room floor and telling him to pack. I heard Dean's maniacal giggle across the house, together with the wails of his baby. The next thing I knew, he was gliding around like Groucho Marx with his broken thumb wrapped in a bandage sticking up like a beacon. Then he got his suitcase, the beatest suitcase in the USA, and began throwing things into it. I got my bag, stuffed it, and as Camille lay in bed shouting, "Liar, liar, liar," we leapt out of the house and struggled down the street to the nearest cable car, a mass of men in suitcase with that enormous bandaged thumb sticking up in the air. First thing, we went to a bar down on Market Street and decided everything. That we would stick together, that Dean would come with me to Denver and then New York, that we would stay buddies till we died. Then we decided to go see Galatea Dunkel about sleeping accommodations. Ed had left her again. He was in Denver, and damned if she still didn't plot to get him back. We found her sitting cross-legged on the Oriental-type rug of her 4-room tenement flat on Upper Mission. "He'll come back," said Galatea. "That guy can't take care of himself without me." She gave a furious look at Dean. It was Tommy Snark who did it this time. Before he came, Ed was perfectly happy and worked, and we went out and had wonderful times. Then they'd sit in the bathroom for hours, Ed in the bathtub and Snarky on the seat, and talk and talk and talk. Such silly things. Dean laughed. For years he had been chief prophet of that gang, and now they were learning his technique. "Dean, why do you act so foolish?" said Galatea. "Camille called and said you left her. Don't you realize you have a daughter?" "He didn't leave her. She kicked him out," I said. Dean grinned. "And with that thumb, what do you expect the poor guy to do?" I added. "I think Mary Lou was very, very wise leaving you, Dean," said Galatea. "For years now you haven't had any sense of responsibility for anyone. You've done so many awful things, I don't know what to say to you." His bandage was getting dirtier all the time. It began to flop and unroll. I suddenly realized that Dean, by virtue of his enormous series of sins, was becoming the idiot, the imbecile, the saint of the lot. You have absolutely no regard for anybody but yourself and your damned kicks. All you think about is what's hanging between your legs and how much money or fun you can get out of people, and then you just throw them aside. Not only that, but you're really silly about it. It never occurs to you that life is serious and there are people trying to make something decent out of it instead of just goofing all the time. I longed to go and put my arm around Dean and say, "Now look here, Galatea, remember just one thing. This guy has his troubles too. And another thing, he never complains, and he's given all of us a damn good time just being himself. And if that isn't